Happy Sunday evening, everybody. We are reacting to breaking news in the Championship. Big breaking news, and it's actually not a very happy Sunday evening if you are Will Still, because he has been fired as the Southampton manager. He got himself one of those plush, plum, lovely year one parachute jobs, and he has lasted, unlucky for some, 13 rounds in the EFL Championship, and he has been given the boot by the Saints higher ups. We were just saying this morning on the hot takes that pressure had piled on this weekend, to some extent for Marty Cifuentes at Leicester, massively for Will Still and Liam Manning at Norwich, and that pressure has proved too much for the Saints higher ups, and they have chosen to act now just before the international break. It's a 3-game week, so there'll be a couple of games before Saints probably make a replacement. We said it's a traditional graveyard November international break number 3 in the EFL Championship season, and here we go with the first of probably a couple of managers, unfortunately, to be losing their jobs. Get your thoughts down there in the comments right now. I will give you mine, and I will read from this statement from the higher-ups at Southampton. This is Technical Director Johannes Spoors. Will is a great person who gave everything to try and improve performances and results. Ultimately, that process has taken longer than any of us would have liked. By making a change now, we believe it gives us the best chance of turning things around this season and climbing back up the league table. We'd like to thank Will and his backroom staff. They've all gone as well, and wish them well in the future. And I suppose that kind of paints the picture, doesn't it? Climb up the table this season. The expectation for a relegated team from the Premier League, a year one parachute team, is that you are in the top 4. You are challenging for automatic promotion, and Southampton are miles off that. In fact, they are one place above the relegation zone. They are below the sort of 1 point per game mark. We look, if you're under that, we see that as relegation form. So not only are they nowhere near the 2 points per game mark that we would expect them to be at, they are actually below what I would deem, having watched the Championship for many years, my kind of watermark for relegation form. Really, really tough for Will Still, but it's not been good at Southampton. Let's just set this up in terms of what Will Still was going into, because there's kind of mitigating factors going in. Southampton obviously promoted with Russ Martin a couple of seasons back, started badly. That was Martin's first season at the club, but then brilliant undefeated run through the bulk of the season. Ipswich and Leicester had got away, but Southampton beat Leeds in the playoffs. Really good performance in the end from Russ Martin there, but he went up to the Premier League, and the prevailing sort of thought with Martin was that playing that hyper possession, quite slow tempo football in the Premier League, out from the back with the majority of the players that he took up from the EFL, wasn't going to work. He stubbornly stuck to it. The results weren't great. He got sacked, and then very strangely they brought in this Ivan Juric chap who seemed to be a bit of an opposite and played quite sort of direct, certainly a big departure from Russ Martin, and he didn't even last till the end of the season, because Southampton, like Ipswich and Leicester, in a disastrous season for the promoted teams, were relegated pretty quickly, which gave Southampton a fairly long time to identify their man, and that man was Will Still, a kind of bright young thing in terms of an English coach who sort of famously had been working at such a young age over in Belgium and France. I think it might have been Belgium, where his club, or was it France? I don't know. Read his Wikipedia. He was so young that I had to pay a fine every time he was in the dugout, because, I don't know, something to do with the badges and his age or what have you. And I think we remember him going on Monday Night Football with Jamie Carragher. Everyone's sort of impressed with this very young outlier of an English coach working abroad. And was it just a matter of time before he got a decent job in English football? Well, that was the case. Southampton was the job, and as I've said, it's a good job. If you can't get a Premier League job, get yourself a year one parachute job in the Championship, and if you are competent or above, you're going to be in the promotion mix. And maybe that says a lot about Will Still's performance so far. Yes, you have to deal with a lot of churn in that first window, and you have to deal with the ridiculousness that I talk about a lot of the transfer window closing at the end of August, and what was it, Diblin and Fernandez. Happens to every relegated club where you're kind of holding out and trying to figure out what your squad is, waiting for money to come in, and all of that jazz. With that being said, the squad at Southampton is pretty decent, isn't it? And it's certainly a top 6 squad, and it is definitely not a bottom 4 squad where Southampton were left. I watched them on opening day. We did the watch along, and I don't know. That should have been alarm bells ringing. It's easy to say with hindsight. They played Wrexham. They were pretty lucky, weren't they? They conceded a penalty where they could have gone down to 10 men. Probably should have gone down to 10 men. It seemed to be denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, and then scored 2 goals in stoppage time, basically, and won the game. And since then, I think I'm right in saying maybe only Norwich have scored fewer points. It's been absolutely dreadful. 1 win in 12 since then. Really poor form. That's left them, as I said, in 21st spot. So they've scored 9 points in the 12 games since. That other win came at Sheffield United, who were and have been a complete crisis club, haven't they? And I guess Will Still's going to look back and think he was unlucky. A lot of the stats say Southampton have made loads of chances. They're very high up the XG table, even though they're very low down the real table. You can argue that when they went to Sheffield United and got that win, Ross Stewart had just got back fit, scored a couple of goals, and this 3-4-3 type system, which Will Still wanted to play. Maybe he was going to be the focal point. Cameron Archer wasn't firing. He had Adam Armstrong, Championship bagsman, sort of out wide right. And it's just not worked since then, has it? And this latest run since that win at Sheffield United, a couple of draws and 3 straight defeats to Bristol City, Blackburn at home, to Preston. The stadium's turned, and I guess the Saints higher-ups have seen enough. Remember, we play 2 more games in this 3-game week to end this quick block. Then, after this international break, we have a run of 11 games, which takes us through Christmas up to FA Cup 3rd round weekend. And you don't want to be changing manager in the middle of that. And if you're going to make the change, this is the time. Could Will Still have turned things around and it got right? Well, he could have. Do you have the time as a year 1 parachute manager of a team just relegated from the Premier League with a squad of the quality that Southampton have got on paper? Do you have the time to spend a whole half a season figuring it out? You probably don't. So maybe it's a moot point if he was going to turn it round, because he's taken too long. And that's the deal, isn't it? That's what you sign up for when the expectation is you're in the top 4. If you're a few places off it, you're in trouble. If you're 7 or 8 places off it, you're in big trouble. And if you're down in 21st, then I guess the Saints owners, as I say, have seen enough and have acted and are going to want to put somebody in. Russ Martin's available. I haven't looked at the betting yet. This is only just broken, so they'll be cobbling that together now, won't they, the bookmakers? So I get the decision. I probably agree with it, given where things are going. I don't want to talk about the guy's personality and character, but the interviews have been getting more and more awkward, and he's a kind of modern manager. These charismatic sort of front men, people person managers, media gods, we don't have them coming through anymore. It's often studious, younger, quieter people like Will Still, and you need to be winning games, don't you? And the interviews are, not necessarily got the fan base behind him. Fan base has turned, stadiums turn, results are terrible, team's nowhere near where it needs to be, and yeah, go figure. Higher ups have acted. Let me know your thoughts. That's my instant reaction on Will Still. Do you agree with the decision? And who would you like to see coming in next for Southampton? The graveyard is open. Will Still sacked as Southampton manager as we go into November international break.